Helsa. This will be a reading of a meditation on Ingwaz. I am taking it from the book Teutonic Magic by Kveldulf Gundarsson. You stand at the outskirts of a small farming village, just within sight of the little thatched cottages among the muddy fields. The wind is sharp with the ice of early spring. The seeds have not yet sprouted, leaving you in the middle of a sea of brown earth. You watch along the sodden, earthen road until you see a procession of horses and wagons approaching. The sun gleams from the golden head of the first rider, whose great brown stallion trots ahead of the group. Behind the wagon, a faint ripple of green runs along the muddy ground as the power of the hidden goddess within brings the seeds forth to life. People are beginning to crowd around you to watch them approach, farmer folk, thin from the long winter, who greet the goddess and her consort with the joy of knowing that their fields will be fruitful and food plentiful next harvest. Ing leads his stallion to the center of the village, the mare-drawn wagon of the goddess rumbling behind him. The fresh spring breeze tosses his golden hair and beard, his sky-blue cloak streaming out behind him. The old women of the town lead out the maiden who has been chosen most worthy of the god. She is dressed only in birch branches and flowers, her long brown hair rippling down over her half-hidden breasts. The wagon stops as the Lord drops his breeches and takes her in full view of the town as his stallion mounts the wagon's mare. Should she bear a child of the god, it will be a sure sign of his lingering blessing. At first she is frightened and shy, but as the grasses sprout around her in the wave of might from Nerthus' wagon, and the strength of the god fills her, she cries out in her joy. Ing remounts his satisfied stallion, and the godly procession rides onward, Ing before the wagon, and a riderless mare behind it. With the other farmer folk, you follow it to the edge of the village. The empty-backed mare stops before you there, waiting for you to mount her. You ride behind God and Goddess as Nerthus spreads spring through the meadows, grass sprouting and trees budding as she passes. The procession travels to the edge of the ocean. A ferry waits on the white beach. You follow Ing and the wagon over the sand and onto the ferry, which, unmanned, slides out onto the rolling swells and bears the god, the goddess, and yourself to the shore of a small marshy island. As you ride off the ferry, you see that the coat of your mare is dulled, and that she plods along as if she were about to collapse at any moment. The mare pulling the wagon can barely set one hoof in front of the other. The power which brought the earth back to life is entirely drained. Only Ing and his stallion are still strong and vital. His steed trots along, tossing his head from side to side as though he scented danger on the wind. The wagon stops at the edge of a boggy lake. You and Ing both dismount, and you lead your horse up beside the wagon's mare. A veiled woman steps from the wagon, her head and body wholly covered by drapings of dark green and brown. She holds a long knife in her hand. Ing's stallion freezes into silence when she touches him, standing still as Nerthus reaches beneath his belly and slices away his great penis and testes. A river of blood spurs forth into the bog. The stallion drops, splashing heavily into the mud. Nerthus gives his gonads to the two mares, who devour them eagerly. Their coats become shiny and healthy again as they eat. They whisk their tails about. raising their heads with new brightness in their eyes. You can see now that both of them are very pregnant, bellies widening and teats swelling. Ing draws his sword and gives it, hilt first, to the goddess. She casts it out into the bog, the soft mud swallowing it without a splash. Ing takes off cloak, tunic, and breeches, standing before her in his flawless nakedness. Nerthus wraps a twisted rope like a torque around his neck, pulling it tight as she cuts his genitals away. His seed and blood spurt into the open bog together. Nerthus lets go of the strangling cord, and Ing's body topples. The goddess, now pregnant like her mares, steps into the bog and is gone. You move carefully, pushing the naked corpse deeper into the cold mud, and scooping mud up with your hands to cover his fair skin. You can feel the power thrumming just below the surface of the earth, refilled with the life force of the Lord. Slowly you return to your own body, feet firmly planted on the earth, knowing the mysteries contained and reachable through the rune Ingwaz. Ingwaz.